Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Breaking Stones podcast. I'm your host, Michael. Back again. We're going to try and get it right this week. Last week, things did not go according to plan as we recorded our show, and so we're back doing the exact same show again, which is all right. Maybe get a second chance at it, but happy Super Bowl Sunday to everyone out there. Bengals versus the Rams later on today. Usually Monday, a less productive day, although Valentine's Day. So we'll see what that does to everyone. A lot of interesting comments online about that. But welcome to the show this week. We're going to go over the stone veneer process and how it's made. And this is an interesting topic for a few reasons. One, when we started doing facility tours a few years ago at this point, which is hard to believe, but we stopped them after COVID took over, and there were less people coming into the building. So we started doing these facility tours, and in these facility tours, we started to understand that people truly are not aware of the process itself and what goes into the process. And even customers that we have worked with for a very long time, these customers, yes, they've seen our posts online, they've heard about what we do, right? They buy our material. It's very interesting, but until they come here and see it firsthand, they don't fully grasp the process. And we now do a CEU course on this, sponsored or in conjunction with the Natural Stone Institute, which is very interesting. So we came to find out that it's a good topic and something that people are interested in and don't fully understand, right? When they think stone veneer, they may think of the faux stone or the manufactured stone. We're talking about the natural stone side. And there's a lot of differences between the two, but fundamentally from the manufacturing side, the real stone, the natural stone, you're bringing material in, you're sourcing it, and what you're doing is breaking it down, right? The traditional manufacturing process, one that everyone thinks of, is the assembly. You bring in different components, different parts, you bring them to one centralized location, they go through a process, and they're assembled throughout that process. Our process is different, right? We're bringing in big parts, big pieces of stone, and our job is to break them down into smaller ones, and then from there, minimize waste, minimize the time, still get big pieces, and go through that process. So a little bit different than what most people are used to. So it is a fascinating process, and really we break it down into 5 steps. There's a lot of little steps in between, which contribute to our success, right? And a quote that I heard recently on a podcast, the relentless execution of the boring basics is what creates success. And certainly a very interesting quote, and very true to what we do. And that was on the Growth Whisperers podcast with Brad Giles and Kevin Lawrence. But when we look at what we do, it's the repetitive process, the relentless execution of the boring basics, where our team is literally splitting stone, literally cutting stone, palletizing it, trying to make it the same. There's variation in natural stone, but day in and day out, it's how do we create that consistency to build something that our customers can rely on and create that success. So for us, that's what we do. And so I do have a video on our YouTube channel that I'm going to show, which will probably give a good idea. But really, the 5 steps that we break them down to on our side is sourcing the material, cubing the material, meaning we're breaking down the material into manageable pieces. Then we're shaping the material, cutting and palletizing the material, and then wrapping the material and shipping the material. So it seems pretty basic, right? Until you're in it, until you're in the thick of it, then it becomes very different. And this is, again, on the real stone veneer side. And it's our process at Delgado Stone, not necessarily the same process everywhere, right? Some places have their own quarries. They get to pick the premium block. We have a quarry, but we also source from other quarries. So, there's a lot of variables that go into this, but ultimately we're looking at how is stone veneer made from earth to the time it arrives on site and goes onto the job, whatever it's being used for. And then the pictures you see on Instagram, Facebook, all over social media, what does that process look like? And so for us, it's pretty interesting. And So we'll show off this video here. For those of you who have video and can see it, you'll be able to, but we'll get it on YouTube as well. It's pretty interesting. So this is a video that we created in 2019. So few things have changed, but really harvesting the material, sourcing the material, whether it's from quarries or otherwise. For us, it's throughout the Northeast and various other, primarily Northeast, within 190 something miles, about 200 miles. So that's the maximum. So for us, it's very much a local thing, right? And we bring it into our facility in Brookfield in the raw material form, whether it's veneer or rounds, but a lot of it comes in as slabs, and that's going to be our focal point. If you're watching the video, you can see how the slab is actually delivered. And hard to capture what we do in a 2-minute video here, or almost 3-minute video, but we do a pretty good job of it. Bringing that material and bringing the slab and breaking it down into from the slab into the cubing process on our big splitter, which can apply up to 600 tons of hydraulic pressure, which is a good amount. Then it goes to our smaller guillotines, where these guys are responsible for shaping the material into the pattern. And then whether it's full bed or thin stone, they take care of the thickness, again, to help minimize waste, right? And be more efficient. The more efficient we are, the better material is, the more we can control costs. If you're looking at the video, you can see the guys palletizing it. And I can tell you, as someone who's operated every piece of equipment that we have, no matter how easy it looks, it is palletizing is one of those things that it's a skill, right? The more you do it, the better you become at it. The guys give me a hard time on the saws because I am not good at palletizing, just like I'm not good at puzzles, but you're taking it through that entire process and from start to finish. So again, seeing that video there probably gives you a pretty good idea for those of you who can see it, and the different products that come along with it. But ultimately, what we're looking at is that material and that process of taking the material, harvesting it from the earth. When we say harvested, we're typically referring to field stone, which would be like our old New England wall, our old New England rounds, Pennsylvania fieldstone, which we call fieldstone dark. So all of those things are typically referred to as harvested. They go out, companies go out. We work with the same few companies. They have contracts to clear land for whatever the owner is going to use, and then we go from there. And we help with that. We take that material so it doesn't go to waste, and we get to reuse it. And that's some of what you see on a day-to-day basis in terms of the veneer that comes out there. So looking back at it, sourcing that material, quarries, fieldstone, harvested, we bring it in, we cube it, break it down, and then from there it's going to go to the smaller guillotines. The smaller guillotines are very much hand-on. These guys are responsible for creating the pattern, minimizing waste, and then the thickness, right? If it's going to be full bed depth, we're looking at getting into around 4 to 6 inches, 3 to 5 inches in that range. If it's going to be thin stone, they're looking to get it closer to the 3 or 4 inch range, because it's going to be cut on the saw. We want to minimize the waste. And then also when they're splitting and creating corner pieces, that's a whole different art. And again, it's going to vary where you are. Some splitters, some small guillotines have arms that move the stone. Our guys actually do it by hand, and they put together approximately 12 to 15 tons of usable stone a day. And that's an 8.5-hour shift we're looking at. So you can imagine these guys are moving a lot of material by hand. It's really impressive what they do. They have to know it. You can see some on our YouTube page, on TikTok and Instagram, a better understanding of how these guys operate and how they split the material. From there, they're shaping it, right? The 5 patterns that everyone's familiar with. And I'm going to leave rounds out of this, because rounds we don't split, we harvest, and then they go right onto the saws. But you're looking at the at mosaic, ledge, ashlar, strip, and square and rec. And probably square and rec mosaic and ledgestone would be the most common. But again, it depends where you are geographically. And again, we refer to things one way. We found out as we moved into other regions throughout the country, what they call strip, we might call something different. I think we call it ledge. Out west, they call it strip, and vice versa. So pretty interesting as you get into that. From there, the guy splitting it on the smaller guillotines, now it's going to either go to the saws when we're looking at the thin veneer or corners, and then the palletizers and pallets if it's going to be full bed. So, the process at that point, everything's the same up until that point, and then that's where it deviates. And we operate 6 thin veneer saws. 2 of them have the ability with what we call dual arbor. They can cut corners in one pass, but we can also convert them to thin stone. So on our end, our director of operations, Tyler, is responsible for creating the production plan based on orders and what we need to see go out. And then we have our team down on the floor, Ernesto, our production manager, and the team that he works with to help execute that process and get things out in the most efficient manner possible. So again, going to the palletizers, not an easy job, and really none of what our guys do is easy, right? All of it's very labor intensive, picking up the material, putting it on the pallet, making sure it's in spec. And then once that's done, taking the material that's not in spec and moving it to either to a pallet or to a bulk area where then it can be used for thin stone because it doesn't meet the full bed spec. So controlling that waste, understanding what's good for full bed, what's good for thin stone, and how we can best use our products to help be efficient on our end and provide competitive pricing to our dealers so that they can be competitive in the marketplace, but also consistent, and that's important. So again, looking at sourcing the material, bringing it to Brookfield, Connecticut, where our facility is, breaking it down on the big splitter, what we call cubing, and then going into the small guillotines where it's going to be shaped, and then from there it goes to the palletizers or to the thin veneer saws where it'll be cut into thin stone or corners, and then it's wrapped, labeled, and shipped. So we break that down into a 5-step process, but there's so much in between. There's quality control. There's our loader operator, Dave, who's moving material, loading each machine, communicating with our production manager, who's checking orders off, checking off the process. We invest a lot in our technology where the guys can see, the production team can see what they have next, what they're cutting, how much they're cutting. So that visibility, that transparency allows them to know how much more stone they need. It reduces some of the duplicate work. But again, that's our process, not something that everyone's going to do, right? So that's our understanding of it and how we look to improve. But the process itself is very different. And like I said, you're breaking stuff down and people always think, well, there's so much waste. And truthfully, there is. There's a significant amount of what we would call waste, right? We have the splitters are cutting a main product, and there's a byproduct that we're going to mix in and use later on. And then there's a waste product that goes out. We're fortunate to be in an industry where all of the waste gets recycled. So what that means is once or a couple times a week, company comes in, picks up the what we call waste, our trash piles of stone and remnants. They take it to their facility where they crush it, and then they resell it as decorative gravel or trap rock or whatever, depending upon where you are, what you call it. So in terms of sustainability and being economically friendly, right? You're bringing the material in from within 150 miles, and then in terms of waste, it's being crushed. And so there's very, very little waste. We're using by the end, in terms of recycling, you're using somewhere probably of like 96% of what you bring in, which is pretty good. It could probably be higher than that. So higher than that, I'm going to say 96%. Just kind of shooting from the hip a little bit, but we're very aware. Same thing on the water. You're recycling water, and so a lot of it is reusing what you have and making sure that it runs that way. Very different from the traditional assembly process of, say, the manufactured stone or cultured stone or faux stone, whatever you call it, or really any other manufactured process, where you're bringing in the components, the cement, the coloring, the sand, and then putting it all together, and putting those chemicals and whatever else goes into it into that process, and then from there they're taking it and producing the same thing repetitively over and over again. The natural stone side, we have that color variation. No two pieces are the same. They're going to split differently on the big splitter, and then the small splitters, small guillotines, and then this, the saws. Sometimes you have breakage. So there's different things, different components, which makes understanding and controlling cost can be difficult on our end. So a lot of data, as you might imagine. But for us, it's things that we do every day, day in and day out, and we find it fascinating. Some of the stuff that we post online. We posted a video on TikTok of our big splitter breaking some stone, and then of one of our guys splitting stone on his smaller splitter. And these things get 20 million views, 10 million views, and we're like, wow. But then we put up some, completed project, beautiful, and we're like, oh, this is awesome. We take time, we do some editing and put it up there, and it gets like 200 views. I'm like, what the heck? But it's the stuff that we do every day, breaking down these large rocks, these, half-ton to 1-ton rocks, and creating the products that we do out of this, where a lot of people don't see what's behind the screen. They see the finished product and they understand, wow, this is beautiful. Look, it's amazing. But don't know what goes in behind it. Pretty exciting. We have the video again on our YouTube page. You can check it out. We'll share the link. It's also on our website if you're interested, if you're an architect or need some CEU credits, you can check that out for us. And that gives the opportunity for you to learn a little bit more in detail. It's about an hour long, 45-minute presentation, get some CEU credits, some education. So that's it. That is, and I'm hoping this worked. I'm hoping this publishes this time, because I don't want to give this one a third time, although I will be giving the facility tour virtual CEU credit event this week. So I'm pretty excited about that. And showing off what we do, how we do it, educating everyone is a lot of fun for us. We're excited. Can't believe it's already the middle of February. Those of you who are tuning in, enjoy the Super Bowl. Can't believe the Cincinnati Bengals are playing, but it's been a strange couple of years, so who knows. Hope you enjoyed the process, listening, understanding how stone veneer is made, and we'll be back soon.